Hello, and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of the Silver Edge. Our mission at the Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In this podcast, we share stories of amazing individuals who are doing just that, to help motivate you to become the healthiest version of yourself, regardless of your age. And now, on to today's podcast. Hello, my guest this week is Jennifer Fisher. Jennifer is an award-winning recipe creator, food and fitness blogger, healthy cooking coach, spokesperson, competitive runner, and CrossFit enthusiast. Whether in person or through her blog, thefitfork.com, Jennifer offers ways to quickly and confidently prepare healthy, delicious, well-balanced meals. She has been featured in numerous publications, including Saveur, Every Day with Rachael Ray, US Weekly, and Better Homes and Gardens. Jennifer demonstrates with real person passion how food can enhance health, well-being, and athletic performance through interactive and entertaining presentations. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I'm really excited to talk to you about what you're doing over at the Fit Fork. But let's back up a little bit and learn a little bit about you. What were you like as a child? Were you an active girl?
I was a very shy kid, and in elementary school, just loved school, loved books, loved learning, and was shy. And so I didn't really love team sports. My mom in fourth grade put me on a softball team, and I chose left field. And when the ball came my way, I would just pretend like I didn't see it. But I loved to do the batting. And then also, when those presidential fitness tests, you probably remember them. I don't know.
I do. Yeah.
So I would always be the first girl back on the run, and everyone would be like, what? How, she cheated, or, no way, Jennifer, the little quiet bookworm, came in first on the run, but every year. And so my mom encouraged me in high school. I did gymnastics. I did do gymnastics as a kid and was okay. And I was on the high school gymnastics team until honestly, I just really got too big, too awkward, too scared, and too interested in other teenage things. And that was a lot of work. They work hard in high school gymnastics, but my mom would encourage me to run. And I was just like, no, because I feel like and maybe I'm in my own bubble and other people didn't feel this way, but sports for girls, when I was in high school, in elementary and everything, like in the early 70s through 80s was they were there, but it wasn't fully embraced. And honestly, you're kind of weird if you wanted to do it. And so the accepted things were gymnastics, cheerleading. When my mom would say, you're such a good runner, because she took up jogging in the 70s, and she would take me with her in the morning, and she's like, you're killing me. You're running out, you're running back, you're running circles around me. You need to join a team or something. I'm like, Mom, no, I would never do that. I'm not joining cross country or track and field. In hindsight, I probably could have gotten college paid for, but it just I wasn't ready for it. So it wasn't really until college, the end of college, I started running just to stay in shape, trying to stay cute. And then I just really, was like, I really like this. And so it took off from there.
Okay, so it sounds like you've been fairly active most of your life, right? It's like you said, kind of shy, maybe a little bookish early on, but a naturally gifted runner. If you're kind of going out and back in the first back on those presidential tests. I remember that. And then, of course, the gymnastics, which is a fabulous all-around base to build from, right? And if you've made it all the way through to high school, that's pretty serious, right?
Intense.
Yeah. So that's a very good base. And to your point, there probably were less options, especially for girls in the 70s, right? For athletics.
I feel like there were fewer options, and it wasn't as, like I said, you were the jock girl, that nobody, not that nobody wanted to be, but like it wasn't such a cool thing that it is today. Like I remember going to see my nieces. I have 3 boys, but I remember going to see my nieces play, like team basketball, team soccer, all those things when they were little, like elementary, junior high school. I thought, well, that is just so empowering. I wish, so.
And then you get into college and maybe a little less active. It sounds like you were just kind of
Yeah.
towards the end of
I
college,
mean,
maybe.
in college, it was like studying, sorority, no time for anything like that. I mean, for my 2 required PE classes, I took archery, and I think the other one I did correspondence, and my kids asked me, like, what is correspondence? You're like, you actually mailed, I
Right.
ran a mile, you mailed that in. So,
Yeah, how about that? And archery as well. So
yeah,
that's
archery
probably
was,
not one that's that common.
yeah, no.
Don't
I
still keep
thought it
that
would
up
be
today, I
easy.
guess.
I thought it would be easy, and it was hard. And when I don't keep up archery, but the Spartan races I like to do have a lot of like spear throwing and those kind of things.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I guess that would come into play,
Yeah.
some of that skill. Okay. So you've got you're through college. You've taken up a little bit of running, as you said, just to kind of stay in shape. Where do you go from there on your fitness journey?
Okay, so I was just running for general feel goods and to stay in shape, and I lived in Houston at the time, and I lived near Memorial Park, which was a big place where everybody likes to go run. And I would run a 5K here and there, but not train for it or worry about it or whatever, and always do really well, like place or at least when my age group, but I never really thought about running, quotation marks. So I'm just doing my jogging thing around Memorial Park one day, and this guy stops me and he's like, "Oh, you're training for the marathon." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I am." And then I'm like, "When is it?" And he's like, "Well, it's in like less than 3 months." And so I ran home and I looked it up and I signed up. So I went from, my 3 or 4 miles around the park to running a marathon in less than 3 months. I saw him again at the park, and he's like, "Well, I'll run it with you." And so I'm like, "Okay." And I ran it. I did pretty good. So and then I just got hooked on the marathon running. So which I'm less hooked on now because there's so many other things I found. But
Wow. Okay. So basically just on a whim, you signed
kind
up
of on a whim.
for your first
Yeah,
marathon, and with only 3 months to prepare, with pretty sounds like pretty casual running behavior
yeah,
before
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's impressive. I
yeah,
think that most folks would say, about you need about 4 months to kind of prepare for your
yeah,
first marathon.
yeah.
Talk us through that first marathon. What did you do differently to prepare in those 3 months for that event?
Oh, and that for the first marathon?
Uh-huh.
Well, I really knew nothing about making a training plan. I knew none of that. I just ran when I wanted to run. I ran as far as I wanted to and as fast as I wanted to or as slow as I felt like it. I didn't know about the plans, and this guy did. So he's like, he kind of took me through a baby one where we just mainly focused on, hey, meet me at the park and we'll do a long run every Saturday, kind of getting there. That's really all I did. And then after that one, I joined one of the running clubs in Houston. That's one of the ones where all the fast people like to run, and their coach that coached all the Olympic people that were in Houston. And I started doing their workouts with them. And I mean, like, serious training plan. Like I remember I joined, and then 4 weeks later I ran another 5K, and I was already pretty fast at the 5K. I ran another 5K, and I think I shaved my time from, like, in a month of doing speed workouts, shaved my time, 3 minutes, like from 21 to 18 minutes or something like that. Something fast. I couldn't believe like that much time could be taken off in a month, 8 workouts. So I need to maybe start speed training again. Oh, well.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so I got hooked with that little group, and that's kind of where that went. And
So you were on the kind of the endurance path, right? You did that first marathon, and what was the finish of that like for you? Did you? I know a lot of people are either very euphoric, or that's a bucket list for a lot of people. Frankly, they finish that first marathon, they go, you know what, never again. And other people are like, oh my god, when's the next one? What
yeah,
was that like
well,
for you,
I
kind of
finished it.
finishing?
I finished it, and I just remember being, this was back when we didn't have like 10 million pictures of the event. I have a few pictures because my parents lived nearby in another town, but they drove in to, like, I can't believe you're going to run a marathon. And, they snapped a few pictures. And the feeling the whole way through was just, I was happy, and it started to get a little hard, but I didn't like, I never thought I wasn't going to be able to do it. I just did it. So obviously happy when I finished, and I was young, so I felt pretty okay the next day, but I was ready, like, oh, everyone congratulated me on, oh, you did so well for your first marathon. And I remember feeling proud of myself for doing that. And then just feeling like, back to that empowered, confident feeling, like all of a sudden, instead of being the bumbling, gangly, awkward gymnast, look, I'm a fast marathon runner, and people are appreciating that and giving me praise for that. And so I went on to work with that running coach for only a few years, and I actually did better my time even more, like by 30 more minutes. And my last marathon in that short amount of time was only like maybe 2 years at the most, maybe ran 5 marathons or 6. And the last one, I was chasing a Olympic qualifying time. And which was slower then than it is now, but still. And I remember I was in Portland, and I was actually there was a possibility that I could win I could win it for the female if I would have stayed on my plan. And this is what the coach said, who wasn't happy with me. But, I get excited. I went all out, and I missed it by under a minute. So, and this is where the story starts to get a little weird. So that was really disappointing because I had chased it for the last 3 marathons. I was really close to that time, within a few minutes, and like 5 minutes. And so it was disappointing. I just remember the whole race feeling like I felt tired. I didn't really feel like myself. Maybe I was overtrained. Maybe I was overtraining. Not as much information about that back then anyway. And then I just kept feeling weird. So I went to the doctor. You're pregnant. You're like 9 weeks pregnant. So I had been pregnant running the race.
Surprise.
Thankfully married. I was married. So, but I remember it was such a shock. I felt like maybe I was like a high school kid in trouble or something, like I remember just shaking in there, like, what? I'm pregnant. And I had been married for about 6 years at the time. And I remember thinking, you know what, this is actually really good, because I know we knew we wanted to have kids, but like literally we never talked about it, because my husband is kind of like, when things are perfect, we'll do this. And then I can buy into that, so we just never really talked about it. So thrilled. A couple weeks later, didn't work out. That was like an emotional roller coaster. But the good of it was that we had the conversation of, we want to have a baby now. And so we started working on that pretty seriously. And eventually another year, and then another 9 months for the baby. Had her first, and then 3 more, a total of 3 boys. And while I was not one of those pregnant running moms, that you see, like, that are just hauling, and kudos to them, I couldn't do it. Because of some problems I was having. And then also just, it didn't feel comfortable with me. And then I was also very worried about things that were going on with me and wanting to make sure everybody turned out okay. And so I just really, for those years of being pregnant, dialed down my running while I was pregnant. And in between them, I did run. I had the baby jogger. I had the double baby jogger. I did not have the triple, but but didn't like try to train hardcore, like where I was before. Like, you see some of these women who are so badass that are like, I just had a baby and now I'm, like, so anyway, but I feel like maybe that break, or that scaling down time for me, which was pretty much my entire 30s, have a baby, run a fun run, have a baby, run a fun run, that kind of thing. And then I remember there's my mom again. You need to do marathons again. You were good at that. You were good at that. So she's like on me. And so I'm like, I finally told her, Mom, when I turn 40, I will run another marathon. So I turned 40 and I knew 40 was coming, and I turned 40. And so we picked one. Las Vegas. Again, I put about 3 months into it, ran it with about the same finish time of my other entry recreational jogging, that kind of outcome. Was so sore after. Things definitely had changed with my body. But then I was like, oh yeah, I like this. This is good. Let's do another one. So the thing is that I had come from, just running, kind of like if I went to the gym, what do I do in there? Like, I'll go on the treadmill at the gym. Okay. Or like or I think I know how to use that machine. I really didn't do a lot at the gym. So I bumped into, as a start line of a race in my early 40s in Austin, near the front, because I was in it to win it. And here's this other girl. She comes up, never seen her before. She looked really strong. And she looks at me, she goes, what's your time going to be? And I'm like, I gave her the evil eye. I am not going to tell you what my time is going to be.
She's your competition. Yeah.
Yeah. I already have my elbows ready out, And so then very, very ironically, I saw her the next day at the park out by my house, which is nowhere near downtown Austin. We're out by the lake. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yes. She's like, yeah, I'm a running coach, but I also have a gym, which she later was a CrossFit gym. That's how the CrossFit enthusiast in my bio came in. I'm not really doing hardcore CrossFit. I'm doing like a boot camp thing now, but that's where that came in. So she's like, yeah, you need to get stronger. You're going to be a better runner if you're stronger. You're going to age more gracefully if you're stronger. You're going to have fewer injuries. So, and also let me correct your running form. I was like, well, what's wrong with my running form? I run faster than you.
Right.
She's like, yeah, no, you're getting injured and you could be a lot more efficient. So she made me do all these drills, all this stuff. I hated it. And she's like, you are so uncoachable, but, she got tweaked my running form so that there's a zillion different methods out there, but it was the pose method. So she had me, I'm now a forefoot lander. So I land on my forefoot now, and it's now natural, when before it was not. I was heel striking all over the place. So, and I actually did have fewer injuries. And then I started going to her gym, which later became the CrossFit. And I would only go once a week to CrossFit because she wouldn't let me come more, because she's like, you're too competitive and you don't need to like break yourself here. You just need to, so we would kind of go, I would go on the day I went, she would usually do like more of a Jennifer friendly endurance kind of high workload workout rather than all that super, super heavy lifting. And I did get stronger. We went to a running camp for CrossFit endurance, which was a thing at the time in California. And I remember seeing these girls, and man, I could run circles around them. So I'm like, I am fitter than they are because I can run fast. And then I'm looking, and they're like doing these. A girl could do all these, like so many pull-ups. And I'm like, what? So it was my turn to go on the pull-up bar and I could do one. So I was very humbled by that experience. I couldn't squat down to the ground, all these things with no weight on the bar, just, I didn't. Right. So I got stronger, and I noticed I was not becoming injured. And I was feeling, again, the confident, empowered thing. I was feeling really empowered by being stronger, like this is pretty cool, because I've never had this before, except for maybe in gymnastics for a little bit, but not like this. And knowing, even though I did compete in the CrossFit games for like, I don't know how many years, a lot, just for fun encouragement at her CrossFit box. And I would actually do okay in my age group, like regionally, but not good enough, because I'm not the kind of beast athlete that you need to be that kind of an athlete. So about this time, this has been going on for like 7 years. And then I'm like, these Spartan races, that sounds pretty cool, because look, I can do these things now. The things that they're saying that I'm seeing that you have to do, I can do that. I can pull myself up over a wall. I can go across monkey bars, And so I tried one of those out, and it was a natural fit. So we love doing the obstacle course races and have been doing that for 5 or 6 years. When I say we, My husband, who is also very athletic, but he was more like the football player type, the gym type, some running, but not didn't ever really love running. But his story is, I had one time gone to Greece to run the Athens Marathon to represent Houston, which was a really nice honor. And he was just going to go cheer me on. He'd never run a marathon or a half marathon or anything like that. And the night before, he's like, let's go sign me up too, because this is historic. Because even if we ever come back to Greece, which is not necessarily likely, it would never be on a marathon weekend. So I'm like, okay. So we signed him up, and I'm looking at him like he was crazy. And it was like so old school back then. It was like literally we had fabric bib numbers, and it was really cool. And then they put us on the bus and drove us out to Marathon. We get off the bus, and he's like, okay, so you're going to run with me? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not running with you. So he finished the marathon. Honestly, in a respectable, I was impressed with how he pulled that off. And he was one and done. He's like, okay, I did that. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of people with the marathons. There's the one and done bucket list. Yeah, not doing that again. And then there's the holy moly, sign me up for the next one.
Yeah. So with the Spartans, though, when I said I'm going to sign up for the Spartan, and it's in, you know how they're never like when they say like Austin Spartan, Chicago Spartan or whatever, they're never where they're always in some little city way off, like a little town. I mean, so I said, well, where is this town it's in? He's like, well, you're going to get lost going there. So much confidence. And just in case you get hurt, I can drive you to the hospital. So I'll take you. I'm like, okay. I go, but that's stupid. If you're going to go, you might as well just run it. He's like, well, I don't know. All that climbing through the mud and getting all dirty, that looks pretty dumb. So I signed him up for it, and he did it. And I did finish in front of him. I knew he would like it because of the obstacles. So I finished in front of him, and I was waiting, and I knew what a disaster I was, like how muddy and scraped up and how many burpees I had to do on that first one. And I thought, hey, he's going to be so mad at me when he finishes. He was going to be so mad. And I saw him come across the finish line, and he's like, oh my God, that was so fun. So he's done everyone with me since then, including we went to the World Championships in Tahoe one year. And it was been a really fun thing for us to do together. We don't run together, but it's we get ready together and all that stuff. And then the latest thing has been last weekend. We did an adventure race. So now he's already on the computer plotting for the next one. So
and now I know a lot of the adventure races are some of those get pretty long, and some of them are multi-day. What sort of adventure race did you guys do?
So all spurred on by the Fiji big one, the big 11-day one, the Eco Challenge. So I had definitely heard of the Eco Challenge, and I actually had applied to be on a team for it once, and I don't think the team made it. This was a long time ago. But up to then, I think under my belt, I've done I've done the Hood to Coast Relay twice, which is 200 miles, but it's a team. And I have another good story for you. I ran a 50-mile race on a whim. That was a one and done. Yeah, on a total.
So the ultra marathon, right? The 50-milers.
Yeah, the same girl that the girl, the CrossFit friend, running coach friend, she's like, I'm gonna run this ultra in California, America's River. She goes, I want you to come with me and another girl and pace us to the finish of this 50-mile race. Keep us on track. Keep us talking to us. I mean, I didn't know anything about all of this. I'm like, okay, first of all, no, I'm not running one step past 26.2. That is dumb. That is stupid. Why do you need to do this? Then she goes, well, what if I buy your plane ticket? And I'm like, well, okay. And what a good friend, right? She's like, and I go, well, you need to give me your insurance card and all this stuff. And I'm like, still saying, this is such a bad idea. I can't believe you're doing this. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to regret it. So we get out there, and I have no stress. I had just run a half marathon the weekend before. I had no stress over no race anxiety, whatever, because I'm just out there to run 20 miles with her and then drop out, and the next person will take over. So, we go out the night before, we get our steak and sweet potato, and I'm no stress. I sleep like a baby because I don't have a race the next day. And So we start running, and around mile 19, 20, she starts complaining that her hip hurts. I'm telling her to come on. We're on a good pace. Keep going. And I'm thinking, boy, it's really pretty out here. And I did fly all this way. And I mean, I'll just do it. I'm just going to do the race. So she's like, this makes me feel terrible. And she later was able to finish at 1, but she's like, okay, I have to drop out my hip. So I kept going and pacing the other girl. I stopped at an aid station. First of all, those aid stations, have you been in an ultra race before?
I have not, no.
Like in a marathon, it's like, goos and chews, banana halves. This was like a smorgasbord of it was at mile 30. M&Ms, Oreos, chips, peanut butter sandwiches. I mean, it was so much junk food. And then but then other good stuff like potatoes, boiled cold potatoes and salt and, all the stuff. That's what tasted the best to me. And I'm an M&M fan, but not in a race. But so I'm standing there waiting for the other girl to catch up. My phone rings. It's my husband. How's Valerie doing? Oh, she dropped out. Oh, darn. I go, but I'm still going. I'm at mile 30 something. He's like, oh my God.
Right.
So, yeah. So kept going, kept pacing the other girl who was not happy. She is a big CrossFit. I think she came in 3rd in the whole games one year in the early years. She owns the big one here, and she's very muscular, and she's a good runner and an awesome athlete, obviously. But this was a challenge for her. She finished, of course, because she's completely amazing, but she did not want to do my chatty talking on the run. So I had run up ahead of her. So then I stopped to wait again. My friend jumped back in the race for the last few miles. We finished. But then this is when I told her, this is one of the best things anybody's ever done to me. My friend, she gave me her post-race finisher's jacket, which that was very nice. But better yet, she gave me her post-race ticket to get the hamburger at the finish line. So, I'm like, this is the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me. So,
I bet after 50 miles, that was probably a pretty tasty burger.
Yeah. So anyway, the fallout from that was that night we went to go eat at a restaurant, all of us, and then I could not even get out of the booth to get back in the car, barely. And then it was literally on the edge of the bed. I had to get one, each leg I had to lift up at a time. It was terrible. So I was pretty trashed from that one. And I really felt kind of one and done on it. But the adventure racing to me has so many different elements in it that it seemed a little more appealing. And also, having started to do these things with my husband, the Spartans, and we do a boot camp together now. So all these years of marriage, we're almost married 30 years, all these years leading, like the first 25, or 22, we just did our own fitness things separately, basically. He went to the gym on the way to work. I ran. So now we do the Spartans together. We do boot camp 4 times a week together, and we go to the gym. And so it's really been great for us, a great little active hobby as we enter the senior years.
Right. Yeah. You have that common experience of these intense Spartan races. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. So he's off. So to answer the very long loop I did about the adventure race, it was only a 6-hour one because we had never done the orienteering, the navigating. So you're literally off grid. You don't, it's not a marked course. You just have to go collect all these little check-ins to show that you've been where they are. You plot them on a map, and then you have to figure out how to get there. So needless to say, the very first one, we were running lost for an hour and a half. And then we got the hang of it, and then we really kicked butt. But it was a lot of fun. We canoed and mountain biked and all that. So that seems like a fun challenge that we might be working towards. And we're still going, but it's just not, I feel like there was enough varied activities that you're not killing one part of your body that is, because he actually is very amazing. He's 59 and he's in great shape. So he's stronger than me. I'm faster than him. So we're good balance.
Yeah, you're a good team. Yeah. So, wow. That's a lot of endurance work. And it's kind of interesting, I think, and I think this is a fairly common phenomenon for a lot of endurance folks, that they either burn out on the endurance, which was kind of my story, or they just get introduced like you did, kind of haphazardly, either to a gym or to a CrossFit or into the obstacle course. So obstacle course racing. I think it's interesting that you found the CrossFit piece, and a lot, because to your point, while endurance people are amazing athletes, they're not well-rounded in fitness. And I think a lot of people miss that. You see like an Ironman triathlete or an elite marathoner, and they are spectacular, but they're specialists, right?
Yeah.
They're probably not very strong, and they probably don't have that well-rounded fitness. But once you start moving into the CrossFit and the Spartan races and obstacle courses and things like that, now we're adding some strength work, or we're working more mobility, and we're doing other types of movements. So what does a standard workout week look for you these days? What do you do?
Well, I probably run, as in just a strict run outside, like a boot camp, just going on a run, probably run 18, 20 miles a week. I go to a boot camp 5 times a week. Since COVID, I've been doing, sometimes we go in the morning and at night to the boot camp, because we're not going to the gym as often. When the gym opened back up, my husband was missing lifting the heavy weights, and I was missing some of the stuff there too. But we've only been going to the gym 1 time a week now, instead of like pretty much every day before. So when things were really bad, when nobody was going anywhere, my husband and I were doing our own boot camp, just he and I, on our front porch. We have a really nice secluded front porch with big hedges. We were doing our own boot camp and kicking our own butts at 5 o'clock every morning. But it's nice that we can now meet with our outside groups. Are still meeting. So that's probably an average week. When we decided we were going to do the adventure racing, we threw in some mountain biking in every weekend, and then just one random canoe trip to make sure that we wouldn't kill each other on the technique.
Yeah. And now when you say you're doing boot camp maybe 5 days a week, what is that? I'm not sure all our listeners are going to know what that means. What does that entail?
Okay, so the boot camp I do, it's called Camp Gladiator, and they're in, I don't know, like maybe 10 states across the country. Usually ones that it's good to do it outside year round. I'm in Texas, so we have pretty good weather all the time. And we work on endurance, strength, agility, and then they have 1 week they call a peak week, where you bring it all together. I'm guilty of trying to make every week a peak week, but it's really a great concept because it can be scaled, to everyone's fitness level. But so I would say a lot of it's just like a high intensity interval training workouts with, I'm not killing myself with the kind of weight I might try to do in the gym, but just something that's going to give me muscular endurance and keep my strength. So, running, squatting with dumbbells, snatches with dumbbells, bear crawling, all this fun stuff.
Yeah. And typically in a very high intense environment, right? Like you had mentioned the HIIT, or the high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
And obviously you're in great shape, right? I found you on Instagram, and let's just say you're shredded. And you're welcome. Do you stay that way year round?
That's interesting, because I get a lot of comments about it. And I mean, obviously I fluctuate. My weight fluctuates a little bit, but really not a lot. I mean, I've pretty much been the same weight my entire life. I mean, now probably I'm look more shredded because there's more muscle mass than when I was a runner, but I know I stay that way all the time. And I mean, pretty much, it must just be genetic is all I'm thinking, I don't really, and like, I know you're going to lead into diet. I don't, like, I've never done the bodybuilding where you like bulk up and then cut down. I don't really understand that. So I just kind of eat to fuel what I'm doing and intuitively. And I have over the last 10 years cut out some refined carbs, but I don't say no, because that's just, I don't see the point in saying no to like like I had a hamburger with a white bun for lunch today and French fries. So, I feel like for the most part, since I've been doing this my whole life, basically, I know what works for me, and so I feel like some people just get into a situation where they see that it's not a continuous journey. It's just like, well, when I finish that 5K, then they stop running, or when I lose 10 pounds, well, you're just like this all the time, and so for the most part, my diet, I track it every once in a while because people ask, and so I can say in my blog posts and stuff that what I'm saying is true to what actually is true. I will track every once in a while. I'll tell you, tracking macros drives me personally crazy and makes me a little disordered in my eating thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about food too much. So, but I will do it. I usually actually end up losing weight when I track. So, which is because there it is. I'm like, oh, I ate all that. Now I'm going to have to put it down on paper. So when I have tracked for up to a month, one time I did, I find that I eat about a third in carbohydrates. I've tried to go lower. My endurance performance did not like that at all. A third in carbohydrates, a third in protein, and a third in fat. And I eat meat and I eat a lot of plants, So one of my sponsors is the Texas Beef Council, and I've been with them for like 10 years. And people assume that I am like on the carnivore diet or something like that. But, a serving of beef is 3 ounces, and honestly, that's enough for me. And I don't eat it every night, but I do love it and I eat it a lot. Standard pre-race meal is the 3-ounce steak with sweet potato. That's what works for me. And so I eat pretty much everything. I really have no restrictions other than, like I mentioned, I have dialed back, like eating pasta, eating bread, eating some of those things, but I enjoy them. I like them.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. You found that when you do track, which is not your preference, which I'm kind of surprised to hear that because you're clearly, when you look at your blog, you're very much a foodie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have an intensity level to your lifestyle that allows you to consume quite a bit of calories, I'm sure. Excuse me, because you're burning those off. Now, while we were talking, you just kind of held up your fist as you mentioned the meat. Are you a precision nutrition person? You're looking at
I don't
me
know
like,
what
no.
that is.
Okay, no. So that's nutrition. Precision nutrition is a coaching system, and they teach that there's a fist is a portion of protein, a cupped handful is and a thumb is a fat.
I know those. I know what those are.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right. Yeah. So that's well, I don't know that they invented it, but they certainly use that in their coaching philosophy. So it sounds like basically your philosophy is, look, I'm just going to eat to fuel my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to eat what feels right to my body. It sounds like you've obviously tweaked that around a little bit. Talk to us a little bit about, you have the website. It's www.thefitfork.com. And there's a ton of recipes up there, lots of really good stuff. Talk to us about that. How did that come to be?
So that came to be about 8 years ago. In my varying array of jobs that I've had, when I had kids, I left my professional career and I had the kids and they were starting to get a little bit older. And I was like looking for some ways to just keep myself busy, my mind busy, feel more engaged. And so I started doing some freelance writing, and because I do like to write. And I had a client that would say, you need to start a blog. And I'm like, yeah, no, because you know how many running blogs, you know how many food blogs there are, because it doesn't matter. You're trying to like think of something that has to be unique. The general over umbrella isn't unique, but you're unique and what you bring to it, and sure enough, just one January, I decided I'm going to start this blog. And within a few months, I had some really neat opportunities coming my way. Like I was asked to be on the Head to Coast team with one group and all this stuff. So, but how I was interested, like I didn't just wake up one day and say, I know I like to run and I like to eat. Like, where does the recipe making come in? Well, ever since I was a kid, I did love to cook. That was one of my kid hobbies, and I still have it to this day. I have the Betty Crocker Kids First Cookbook, with all the loved pages. Some of them are stickier and grosser than others,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
would just pour over that cookbook and make things. And so I've always enjoyed cooking and making recipes. So another hobby that I had when the kids were little was I would enter recipe contests. And now that was an experience because I've had some really amazing experiences from winning recipe contests. Like I've been to the Pillsbury Bake Off, which is like probably the most kitschy, iconic one ever. And that was the hardest one for me to get into. I must have tried for 8 years to get into it. The grand prize was $1 million. So they took all the finalists to Las Vegas. You were like literally in that, like a ballroom of 100 kitchens cooking off, trying to win the $1 million. I did not win. My recipe was too fit for them. But anyway, that's okay. I just wanted to go because I wanted to like have that campy experience. I wanted to hug the doughboy and all this. But I won a barbecue sauce contest with Jack Daniels, and we went to the World Invitational Barbecue Cook-Off in outside of Nashville as judges. So I got to judge that. We've been to New York several times with cooking contests, all these crazy, crazy fun experiences. So I'm like, well, I know I'm creative, obviously, then, because, I can come up with a recipe that's going to win a trip. So, so I just started putting that into practice and kind of showing people how I eat and what I like to cook. And, it was hard for me to start learning how to write a recipe and follow a recipe because I just usually am winging it. But that's been a process. I feel like I'm pretty good at it now. And I like my blog. So, there's blogs out there that are dedicated to a certain diet type or another, like gluten-free strictly, or, whatever. Mine are just kind of generally oriented to healthier eating to fuel an active lifestyle. And if it happens to be a certain diet type, I run all the nutrition numbers and will mention that for people who need it. But yeah, it's been really fun. My house is always a disaster. I used to go to the store every day between having 3 teenage boys who now are young adult boys, but young adult men, sorry, between their appetites and the blog. I'm at the store I would be at the store every single day.
Yeah,
So,
I bet.
and
Right.
I always have my house is always in some form of, messy food styling, dishes everywhere. Yeah. So
And so were the kids and the husband then, were they your guinea pigs as you're inventing
they're
these
the kids.
recipes?
Yeah, I will be honest. A lot of times the kids were like, "This is not going to work for me." No, my husband, he is awesome. He will eat anything I serve him, so he's just happy to have the food,
Right.
and
Okay.
he thinks most of it's pretty good.
Well,
And
good.
it's
Good.
fueling his active lifestyle also.
That's right. And I guess it's fueling a lot of active lifestyles
Yeah.
now, right? I mean, it
Yes.
seems like it's really taken off and has been
Yes.
successful for you.
Yes, and one way I've been able to turn it into a job for myself over the last few years, where actually, was able to make it be my job, was I just kind of decided, well, who are the people? What are the things that I really believe in? The foods that I eat, foods I like, and I reached out to a few of them. I already had a relationship with the Beef Council, Texas Beef Council, and Beef It's What's for Dinner. I mean, they're the National Cattlemen's Board. I already had a relationship with them. But then I was like, what is my favorite fruit? Man, I love watermelon. Well, I've been working with the National Watermelon Board now for 5 or 6 years. And some people on my Instagram only know me as the watermelon person. So if I get all sorts of random watermelon stuff sent to me. So they are awesome. So I reached out to them. I said, I just really love watermelon. I love how it fuels my active lifestyle. I must have found them at the right time because they're like, oh, yeah, let's work together. So every year they listen to my crazy ideas and pretty much usually let me just go with it. I mean, they like the recipes that I do, but they also like it. I've been places with them in person to do watermelon workouts, at fitness conventions. And last year we went to the Fit Foodie Run in San Diego, and I hosted a big watermelon demonstration. And then I came up with ways that you can season your watermelon, had an interactive experience. So that's been really fun. And now I'm working with USA Potatoes also, which is another food I love. So I kind of was just like, well, thinking, what do I really truly believe in and what really does fuel me, so I can feel like I'm being authentic about it, and reached out. Now, some people that I reached out to, like, avocados, hello, are you listening? Because
They haven't
we
responded
eat a
yet,
lot
huh?
of avocados over here.
Right, right. Well, who knew there was a national watermelon board?
There is, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that's
they're
pretty cool.
commodity. Also, what I love about working with these types of, they're not companies, they're commodity boards. So I feel like also I'm helping in a way support, the promotion. I mean, help farmers and ranchers, with their business, because that's where the funds come from ultimately.
Yeah, and that's an interesting concept. You're looking for, I guess, more or less sponsorship, right? But as
Mhm.
opposed to, because mostly when you think about a sponsorship, you're thinking probably in a food space, you're thinking of processed food manufacturers. But you
Yeah.
found a way to reach outside of that, and you're talking about the Beef Council and USA Potato, and the
Mhm.
National Watermelon Council, and we're still working on your avocado one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's great. You're promoting Whole Foods, and they're
Yeah.
kind of giving back. And
Yeah.
I do notice that on your Instagram, you do a lot of, I guess, cooperative posts. I think maybe, I don't know, they sponsored posts. What do you call that when you're
Yeah. I
doing
mean, and then
something?
also as a way, like, so these commodity boards I've mentioned to you, I feel like I have a long-term partnership with them that's contracted, year to year. And, I feel really, I mean, like, I feel like I'm part of the family with them. But just to keep, business going, I will do other jobs that are more like a 1 or 2 or 3 time deal with someone with products I feel that fit my lifestyle, whether that's a consumer food, sports product, or some sort of gear I might use for my fitness, just to keep things rolling along so the fit
Sure.
sport can keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And
I've
I
seen
mean,
you
and also
do.
I do really feel strongly about really only standing behind products that I actually do use. So there's been a lot of things I've said no to. And, like, honestly, today, right now, my last post is for a canned energy drink, a clean one. But I will say I drink energy drinks, the better ones, because I, through DNA testing, confirmed what I already knew. I am a gifted caffeine metabolizer. So that is a thing. You have to have, there's these 2 genes, or like CR51, or I can't remember the gene name. If your parents both give you that gene for metabolism, caffeine metabolism, you run through it 4 times faster than the normal population, which can actually be used to your benefit in in your sports, if you know how
Sure.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a good reason to justify the extra coffee in the morning. But I can have it. I'm
You can have it.
gifted
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I must not have gotten those genes from my parents, because yeah, I don't do caffeine certainly anywhere near afternoon, just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it
I
affects,
know.
it affects
Well,
me.
the
Yep.
interesting thing too about that is that it's not just caffeine. There's a whole list of other drugs underneath it that affect you the same way, including like Tylenol. So Tylenol is one of them, and I always wondered why Tylenol, it never worked for me, and now I know.
Now you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, let's switch gears for just a minute. So we've talked a lot about food, and I think that's probably where most people know you. But due to I mean, you have a very active lifestyle. You're very active in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on recovery? You've talked about, you're still running 18 to 20 miles a week. You've got this really intense boot camp workout routine, and you're still doing things like obstacle course races and looking at adventure racing. What are your thoughts on recovery from that kind of a workload outside of the nutrition aspect?
Yeah. I mean, it is, I'm not going to lie, it's hard. That's the biggest difference I see between being younger and older, is the recovery. I mean, you just don't bounce back the same way as quickly. I also feel like I work harder, and everything is harder. Like, even I work harder at mobility, and I'm not as flexible, it's all, I feel like, a constant struggle. But I also feel like just anything that you can do, any little bit, adds up, especially like with mobility, flexibility stuff. So, which really, I don't like doing. I call myself an inflexible yogi, because I like to do the fun tricks, but actually leaning over to touch my toes, that's not so fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, recovery's harder. I try to, eat well, obviously, to expedite that. I take a few supplements, nothing weird or unheard of. I try to sleep. Sometimes sleep is elusive at this age just because of, hormones. I feel like I'm a little bit past the hormone sleep issues. But I've worked myself into it again right now. I'm on a week of not sleeping well. But life stage, you're worrying about your kids, you're worrying about your job, you're worrying about everything that you didn't have those worries. Think about, like, I don't even know, when you were in your 20s, you just hit the pillow and it was like a good 10 hours you could stay down without moving once. Now
Yeah.
you're flopping, you're worrying about everything. You're hot, you can't sleep, you have a headache, you're hungry. That's another one I get. Sometimes I'm hungry because I don't probably eat enough at night. That may be another part of my diet. I eat more in the day, and I do eat dinner, but being in my 50s, it will bother me if I eat too much at night. And so just to help my sleep, I don't eat a ton before I go to bed. And sometimes that bites me in the butt because when I roll over to get comfortable or get up to go to the restroom or whatever, I'm like, oh man, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, trying to sleep, trying to be mobile, trying to stretch, trying to do something to move, although giving myself permission to not, I don't know what to say, because I really do take what I do semi-seriously, but I have given myself permission to let go a lot of the times, the paces, the amount of weight, and a lot of times I'm just doing what feels good to me in the moment, and I thought I would never say that I would, do a race for fun, like that.
That's
What's
the point,
fun
right?
about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the fun? I
Yeah.
can stay in my neighborhood with a friend and run with a friend for fun. There's nothing fun about a race, I'm starting to see the value in that more and more, and a lot less watch looking, a lot less tracking of miles, and maybe I'm not as strong as I could be because of it, or whatever, but I feel like it's a good balance. It's keeping me in a healthier place where I'm not knocked out for weeks, I'm not beating myself up emotionally, and hey, I'm still doing pretty good. So
I'd say so. It certainly seems like that. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think the sleep is a huge, huge factor for
sleep,
recovery,
yes,
mobility, and to your point, yeah, we're in different stages of our lives in our 50s than we were in our 20s. Nobody in their 20s has to worry about recovery because you just do. You
yeah,
just recover magically, not so magically
yeah,
as we age. So we have to take that a little more seriously. And I love that you mentioned that you give yourself permission to maybe be less obsessive about performance results or what's in the competitiveness. Well, maybe I don't need to push this hard today because my body's not feeling it, as opposed
yeah,
to just being obsessed. Well, no, my program or my plan says I have to do this, therefore I'm
yeah,
going to do it, because etc. So walking that fine line between meeting your goals and practicing some form of self-love certainly makes
yeah.
a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's next for you? What do you got? I know you've talked about maybe some more adventure races, but what does next year look like for you guys?
Well, tomorrow morning, I
Okay.
have I will be competing in my 4th year of the Camp Gladiator National Finals. So in the 50 plus division. And so I've pretty much run the gamut on placing in that, like second, third, fourth. So this year, however, instead of being 1,000 people and competing in the final, you have it funnels you down like CrossFit. There's an open and then the finals. And they're only in about 10 states, but it's everybody that in about 10 states. Will be about 1,000 people total. There usually is. It's usually in a big stadium. It was going to be in Dallas this year. Of course, we're virtual. So tomorrow morning, I will be waking up to do my virtual workout. I don't know how they're pulling this off on Zoom, but they've got 1,000 people with judges. And some of them are teams that are going to have 4 4 Zoom windows open that they're judging, and we're going through the whole process virtually. So it should be really interesting. So I'm doing that tomorrow morning.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with the flow on that one because I have no idea how that's going to work out. And also some of my strengths are taken out of it because it's mostly mat work and not a lot of endurance because they can't. So anyway, but doing that, making the most of 2020 there. And in 2021, just got an onslaught of emails of half marathon cancellations that I had signed up. Still waiting for Spartan to come back up and running, but am working with them as a Spartan athlete, which is one of their higher level influencers. So that's been motivating for me to keep my mind focused on, we're going to get back to Spartan and do that. And like I said, my husband is like furiously surfing away looking for adventure races for us to go on. And I don't know, just whatever comes up. I feel like I've been pretty laid back with my training plan. Like I don't really have a schedule that I follow. I just I know the base stuff I need to do to get it done. And then I fill in the spaces with whatever is like interesting me at the time. So anyway, so that's it.
It sounds, well, that's enough, right? Certainly sounds like. And do you have plans to do more with the Fit Fork? Is that going to, I'm guessing that's at least going to continue, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any plans for it to go away. So it's still going strong. I mean, a lot of my opportunities have diminished and or changed some because of not able to be out in person to do anything with, and that was part of the job I liked, is that some of the places would bring me on in person to do something, but no, it's still going strong. And I need to put some more pitches out, like I said, to like maybe avocado, and what else do we like?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, where would you like people to connect with you? What's the best way for people to find you?
Either at thefitfork.com, and I think all my contact information is there. If you want to email, you can find it all there, or you can find me on Instagram at thefitfork. So those are probably the best places to catch me on a regular basis.
Okay. And I could drop those into the show notes so folks can find you there, but that's at the Fit Fork and thefitfork.com. Well, Jennifer, I want to thank you for taking the time and sharing your stories with us, and just say that keep doing what you're doing. You're a great ambassador for healthy aging. You're very inspirational. Love your website, love your Instagram account, and best of luck to you in the future.
Yes, thank you. Great to talk with you.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.